Hi there, my name is Kendrick and welcome to another ENFP male interview. Today I get to interview Victoria. So Victoria, welcome.
Hi, Kendrick.
So Victoria, can you give us what your full type is?
Yeah, sure. That's INTP, double feminine, Ti-Ne, consume, play, sleep, blast.
Consume, play, sleep, blast?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what did you think and how did you feel when you got your typing results back?
That was a funny moment, actually. So before I got my official type, quite a few people from the community had actually tried typing me. And I usually got some version of FESI, FESE. I think I had one that typed me as an observer, but still SEFE. And then my type comes in and I'm just joking with Dave, my boyfriend. It was like, oh, what if you get some crazy type back? I'm like, actually, yeah. So it was definitely surprised because everybody had typed me DE. So to get DI and then TI of all, of all functions was like, wait, what? But yeah, so it definitely took me a few weeks to, kind of wrap my head around it and identify with it. That makes sense. But definitely did come around.
So you do seem like lead SF, but then your official typing is SF last. So that's kind of interesting how that happens. Because if I just look at you from, like I haven't taken the time to watch any of your videos, then I would think, oh yeah, definitely lead SF. But yeah, no, SF last. Well, we'll cover that as we go along the interview because that's super interesting. You said that did your boyfriend also get type?
Yeah, so he was actually the one who got me into OPS. So that's, I think a lot of the viewers will probably know him. It's Dave from like Dave of all people.
Oh,
he also has a great channel where he goes through or interviews, people
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was your boyfriend. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How long ago did you start dating? Are you guys like a newly couple or something?
A year and a half now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think because the last time I spoke to him, he was still single or something. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So did she ever interview him as well?
Yeah, I've interviewed him like a while ago. So yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. Oh my God, you're both TI lead. That's a weird couple thing.
Yeah, we heard that a lot, that actually we should be clashing a lot, but so far it's been pretty good.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'll ask you about that later on. I'm like, oh, heck, two IPs dating. All right, so let's start with your TI first. You have masculine TI. So how do you, now that you have time to think about it, how do you see your identity, especially TI?
Yeah, so I think I've watched a few classes too where they were saying sometimes it's difficult to see the masculine DI. What you will be seeing is feminine DE. And I think that's definitely what's easiest for me to see. Like, I don't like confrontation. I like to just leave everyone be. I don't like to push on people. Very feminine DE, sometimes a bit too much. And then, my friends say sometimes I can be a bit stubborn. So I guess that's a classic masculine TI, and it definitely comes out when people don't make sense, when there's happens quite a bit with lead NIs, when I feel like something's oversimplified to the point where they are leaving out large parts of the argument, or so to the point where it just doesn't make sense. I'm getting like, actually, that is not correct. Let me tell you why. A, B, C, D, E, F. So
Right.
That has definitely happened quite a few times.
So you have an internal filter if someone is saying something illogically inaccurate, and then you would just be like, hey, that's not right.
It depends. It's balanced with the FE, so just that will sometimes stop it and be like, no, actually, just let them talk. Don't kill the vibe now. It's not important whether it's super correct or not, just leave it be. But if somebody's really like pushing it, then it's like, ugh, I kind of have to say something now. Okay.
I guess that's you being energy dominant as opposed to info dominant, because the energy, the vibe is more important than the accuracy of the information. Would that sound about right to you?
I'm not super sure about the energy versus info dominant, to be honest.
Sure.
I kind of feel like they are still honing that concept a bit. I don't know. Let me know if you disagree, but yeah, I see it in a few of my friends and sometimes in myself as well, where I'm like, actually, I feel like the information is quite important to me. And sometimes it's even hard to like change track when I'm really focused on information gathering, or somebody's telling me something and I'm like really listening, or really talking about information, and then somebody makes a joke. I'm like, oh, yeah, joke. Okay, joking time now. So I think as an info dominant, or as an energy dominant, that shouldn't be such a thing for me. I should be the one telling jokes rather than being about the information. So yeah, not quite sure about that.
Have you thought of possibly that you are blast above sleep, like your sleep last? Have you thought about that possibly?
Yes, quite a lot in the beginning, especially since yeah, people also weren't typing me last. But I've definitely, the animals I can see really, really clearly in me, and being abusively consuming and not blasting is actually, yeah, one of my biggest struggles, which probably cannot tell so much right now because I'm like in a play mood, and kind of like Shan always says, if you see me on camera, you wouldn't necessarily think I'm last, but when you look at my everyday life, and how long it took me to, for example, to be open to speaking about my type, because Benjamin asked me months ago to come on his channel, and I was like, actually, I don't really feel like I know my functions well enough, and I know the system well enough, and I feel like I still have to prepare more. And then prepared and watched loads of videos. And then when you asked me, it's just like, just do it now. But there's still a tiny voice in my head that was like, but you could prepare a bit more. Are you sure you're ready? Maybe you should watch some more videos. I'm like, ugh, no, just do it.
Right. Okay, I see what's happening now. So your consume is double masculine, NE and TI. So would you say that's the reason why the voice in your head is always saying those stuff to you, because it's so aggressive? It's like double masculine. Like, no, you need to consume more. You need more.
Definitely. Yeah, it's very, very, very powerful consume, which for me is like, it's a fun. I mean, consume is just fun, but I can see now how it's also preventing me from like, forward motion a bit. Because I feel like if you have blast higher, then maybe you don't have all the information, or you're not as well prepared, but you're just doing it. And a lot of stuff you just learn while you do it, right? With the practice, with the experience. So while I'm still there preparing, trying to get ready, watching more videos, reading more, other people are already out there doing it. And I wish I had a bit more of that. But consume is fun, and I really, enjoy doing it. And I think it gives me like a really big curiosity for people, and for, you can talk to me about anything. Everything's interesting to me. If you started talking to me about tractor engines now, it's like, yeah, sure. Oh, I know nothing about that. Let's talk about it. Awesome.
Right. Right. I guess your consume, so consume is gathering new information for self. So any information is fun and good. There's nothing bad, essentially. It's kind of weird that you describe your consume and your blast as like you always need more information before you can get started, because I think your boyfriend is also blast last, but then he's in every single interview, right? So I'm like, what the hell? So what happened there? So
yeah, I think he's really worked on that, and really he's always working on himself. That's one of the things I really like about him. And always like pushing himself, trying to push himself out of his comfort zone.
Right.
So I think that's why now you would be like, hang on, how many interviews have you given now? And you are last. Nah, come on.
Right. Yeah, I did see a lot of last people that goes to a lot of interviews. So I'm like, okay, maybe once you get started, it's okay. But like the initial starting part is the hardest part. But once you get going, it's okay. It's like not a big problem. Your consume. Let's go back to your consume. Your consume is NT, so it's problem solving and figuring something out. So would you say that if there's something you need to solve in your life, either work or personal life, you automatically consume new information to find the solution to that problem? Is that something that you personally do?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Again, sometimes to the detriment of actually just doing it. And for example, just signing up or applying for an internship or just trying to get started with the thing to see if, for example, right now I'm kind of looking for a career change and I'm not really sure where I want to go. So it would probably be good to just try a couple of things instead of just consuming the information about the thing and then trying to come up with a really elaborate plan. And I feel like, but I've considered everything. I've thought that through really well with all the positives, the negatives. What could go wrong? What's the salary? What are the what career progression can you make? And then I actually do the job and I figure out, that's actually not how I imagined it to be. So all of my thinking and analyzing is pretty much in vain because, in the actuality, I don't actually enjoy it that much.
Yeah, that's true. That's true because you can't. The reality is oftentimes not the same as what you imagine in your head. So it's bad to over imagine because like you said, you go to reality and you're like, oh crap, I don't like this. You
totally, but then then it's, I think maybe that's a bit of the arrogance of like masculine TI where you like, but my thinking is so good. I mean, I will logic it out. I will think it out perfectly so that I will have considered every possible angle. So then I must know what's going on, which is like, surprise, no.
right, because you're not going to be balanced with the thinking and the emotion, right? So like, because I guess when you go to work, part of it is the mental stimulation that you get from the challenge that you are experiencing, but that mental stimulation could also be, emotional too, right? Like, oh, do I enjoy this challenge or not? Because sometimes there's something challenging, but you don't care about that specific thing, right? So then you essentially just wasted your time, right? Because it's not aligned with what you really made you feel good or happy.
For sure.
Let's cover your NE. Your NE is masculine NE. So this ties directly to what you were saying. I feel like masculine NE is very similar to NI because it's like you have a plan and it's kind of more solid than the feminine NE people. It's kind of like what you said too. It's like, oh yeah, no, I've done all my research and based on my research, this is what I want to do, and then you get there and you're like, oh crap, right? So can you talk about your masculine NE and how overconfident you are at what you've gathered?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily an overconfidence in everything that I'm gathering, just if I've really combined the two of TI and NE. It's like, okay, I've looked at everything and I've thought it through. But NE was actually a bit of a surprise too, because I'm not heavy on analogies. I'm usually not leaving the planet when I talk. And a lot of times I ask people for an example, especially NI people, where I'm like, you're being very vague. Can I have an example? But then I noticed that, when somebody gives too many details or even some shows on Netflix, they will over-explain everything or they won't leave you little clues and leave it to yourself to figure it out, but they will repeat that scene from 5 episodes ago in like a blend it in again to show you, to make that connection for you. I'm like, no, let me do that. I can see the pattern. I picked up on that clue, so don't just present it to me. Or if somebody's like, I don't know if you've watched the Elijah Wood class from Dave and Shan.
I did, yes.
If somebody, it drove me nuts watching him. It's like an excruciating amount of detail, how he described that set. I was like, oh my God, please just move it along. Like, we got it.
Right.
We don't need 10 examples. Just two is perfectly fine. 2 is plenty. Just get to the point.
Right. Yeah, that's annoying when the SI people take forever to get to the point.
Yeah, do you feel like that too? I mean, with lead NE, that must be even stronger for you than me.
Yeah. Well, ours probably equal because yours is masculine, but mine is the first, so it's probably close. But yeah, I know I hate it. I'm like, yeah, I get the point. Come on, just hurry up because I get it. You don't have to go through the SI. I get it. I can already see the conclusion.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
You're like, if I want the S,
already.
Yeah, and if I want you to give me the SI, I'll ask you for it because there are times where I do want the step by step. So if I want it, I'll ask you for it, but don't volunteer to me because it's annoying. If it's
yes, sure.
So,
but like, sorry, can I ask you some questions as well? Because usually I get a bit uncomfortable if I just talk about myself for an extended period of time. Like, it's kind of rude. I'm just having a monologue right now.
Yeah.
Plus, it's super interesting to hear about you too, with like lead feminine NE. How would you say that is, like, as opposed to having masculine NE? And is that sometimes difficult because it's so like flimsy and non-graspable?
No, I can. Okay, so I can see my NE. The problem is it flies away really quickly, so I have to be quick. So the moment I have like an NE connection or idea, I have to grab a pen or my cell phone right away. I have to write it down because in 5 or 10 minutes it's gonna be gone. And it's so annoying. And so it's not like I can't see it. It's there, and I use it all the time. But it just goes away really quickly, and I'm like, oh, it's gone already. And like sometimes I get to the paper or the cell phone, and by the time I write, I'm like, oh, it's gone. I'm like, oh my God, that was and I get so frustrated because it was like such a good idea, So does that happen to you? Because it's masculine, right? So I guess the idea is you have a good memory for it, would you say?
I honestly never thought about that. Do I have a good memory for ideas?
Or concepts.
Yeah, I think for me it's more the difficulty is with my feminine SI that then the details are elusive and I'm like, what exactly was that point? I will probably be able to tell you about a concept that I've read about 10 years later, but I will not be able to tell you whether it was 3 million or 300 million, which is an important detail.
Right.
Like having NE and SI both in the middle means I still want to give the SI. I think it's important. I would like to give you that detail, but it just, I cannot remember it. And before I started OP, it was actually to the point where I thought there was something wrong with my brain or with my memory, and I should start doing brain training because I just couldn't remember those details. And it was such a source of frustration for me. And then OP came along and told me there was something like feminine sensory. I was like, hallelujah, finally it makes sense.
Oh my God, feminine sensory can be dangerous. So I'll tell you a quick story before I ask you more questions. So I was interviewed by a local newspaper because I have a travel meetup that I used to run here in Canada. And I get people to come in the meetup and they do a presentation on their travel experience. So every 2 weeks, I get a new guest to come in and they talk about, oh, I went to this country. This is how I experienced it. This is what I did. And
that sounds great.
Yeah, no, it's super fun. It's super great. And I did it for 5 years, I think, before the pandemic started and I had to shut it down. But and a lot of people that come in to that meetup and present have traveled the world for a very like long term. So I've had several people that traveled 1 year, before going back to Canada, or 18 months before coming back to Canada. And I myself also did that. I traveled for 1 year around the world before coming back to Canada. So we have different people that come in and do a presentation, and the local newspaper, they found me somehow, and they wanted to interview me about the meetup group, because they said it's very interesting. It's like, what is this place? Like all these people who travel so much. And then they also wanted to ask me about my own travel experience around the world. But so when I was giving the girl the details, when she met up with me to write a story about me, when the newspaper came out, I was like, oh my God, feminine sensory, holy crap. So I told her at the start of when she was asking me how much it costs for this whole trip, I said I started with only 18,000 Canadian dollars when I left Canada. Okay. So but on the newspaper, she put I had $180,000. And I'm like, oh my God. Then the people who read it was obviously like, well, yeah, of course he can do it for 1 year because he had $180,000,
Oh my God, that is the worst.
Yeah.
But that, I don't get that. That if you're not sure, just write an email to you, say, hey Kendrick, so sorry to asking, but I want to get this correct.
Yeah.
Was it 18 or 180,000
Yeah.
or 1,800? How much was it again? Instead of just printing it wrong.
Yeah. Now it's permanent because it's in the newspaper, right? And I'm like, oh Jesus, I mean, I emailed her later on and she fixed it for the online version of the newspaper, but it's too late for the print copy. And I'm like,
Of course.
Oh. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, feminine sensory is so dangerous. You cannot be a journalist and have feminine sensory. It's so bad, because you're going to provide the wrong facts.
You really have to write every single thing down, because otherwise your brain is not going to cooperate with you, and just meticulous note taking. It's what I do whenever I watch something or I have an online course, work preparation. It just will be pages and pages of notes, because I know otherwise, whenever I have thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna remember that, not remembered it.
It seems like there's a similarity between our type. So for me, I have to write down the concept before it flies away, but for you have to write the sensory before it flies away. So regardless of, we have to write it down or put in our cell phone right away, because otherwise it's gonna be gone. And oh my God, it's horrible.
Yeah, let's use it as a crutch.
Exactly. I want to ask you again for your NETI. So NETI is probably the most powerful animal combination of all types. It's almost broken. That's how I feel about it. It's like it's almost cheating that you have this, because if you look at the top 10 richest people in the world, they're all NETI and they're all double feminine, masculine NE and masculine TI.
Is that true?
At least 50% of them. So Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and
Jeff Bezos as well. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's an ENTP, right? Yeah, ENTP. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing someone else in this list, but there was at least 5 of them on the list that that had NETI, and they're all double feminine. And I mean, Elon Musk is last. I mean, I think, yeah. So, and Bill Gates is last also. Sorry?
Yeah, I've seen him interviewed. It's painful, especially as somebody who's also last. It's just very cringy. It's like, oh my God, ugh, I do that too. Ew.
Yeah, Bill Gates too, right? He's last, and he's on the list. So, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is not last. He's last third. He's play last, right? So, same as Jeff Bezos, he's also play last. So for those two, it's a little bit better. But no, I think the odds are in your favor that you're gonna do well in life, because the people on the highest are your animals and sexual modalities is essentially
no pressure or anything. No, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, I think even people who are like ENFPs with masculine NE, if they know how to use the masculine NE, I really think it's a masculine NE. It's not so much the TI. I think it's the masculine NE that's the superpower, because Mr. Beast. I don't know if you watch the YouTube channel of Mr. Beast.
No.
Okay, so Mr. Beast, he has one of the highest subscriber count on YouTube. He has over 70 million subscribers now, and he started from he rose there really quickly in just a very short time, doing money stunts, right? And he's an ENFP with masculine NE also. So it seems like the masculine NE is the superpower type. Like it's a broken function. It's like if you really took action on what your masculine NE is seeing, it's incredibly broken. It's almost better than NI because the NE has gathered everything, so it knows the perfect concept. You know, the NI is narrowed down, right? So there, a lot of sensory can trip it up, but the masculine NE with that aggressive gathering knows which is the foolproof one. So I don't know. So I feel like the odds is in your favor, especially if you were to really take advantage of it. You know.
Thanks, Kendrick. Just need to get that blast going, and then yeah, I'll be all set.
Exactly. Oh, you can have partners too, right? You don't have to do it yourself. So you know, you can recruit help to do it. You know.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah. Some blaster to help get the whole thing going.
Exactly.
Sounds good.
Yeah, find a blaster partner or something or friend. Okay, so let's go over your second animal, your second savior animal, play. It's NF play. And how do you personally experience that hippie NF play, you know?
I'm not sure if it comes out all that hippie, but if somebody is hippie, that also doesn't like weird me out or anything. So if somebody, for example, I do a lot of yoga. If somebody's on the more esoteric side in yoga lessons and is about a lot about the ohms and the chakras and stuff, I'm like, yeah, okay, let's roll with it. Wouldn't probably be my first choice, but you know, it's fine. But I think the FE play and high play actually makes up a bit for that demon FE. So I don't necessarily seem as demon FE as some other lead TIs, I think, because it's very easy for me to like read a room or read a mood or read a person. The difficulty only comes in knowing what to do with that sometimes. So it's like I can tell somebody is distant or yeah, something's wrong, but I don't necessarily know how to FE fix that. And then when I was younger, I would use logic a lot of times to try and fix that. It's like, okay, let's look at this problem from an analytical perspective. What is it? Okay, how can we fix that? And of course, that wasn't working because they weren't coming from like a logic standpoint. I talked about that in my typing video that happened with my ex-boyfriend when we tried to solve his jealousy. Now you even hear it in my speech. I tried to solve it completely. So I was trying to go about it all like, okay, so what exactly is the problem? Okay, so if I'm meeting another guy at night, okay, so how about lunch? Would lunch be okay? Because that'd be in the daytime. This is how I went about it, which now looking back, I'm like, this is not what he needed at all. Yeah, so that would be the FE play. I can easily see the patterns. I can tell if somebody, if like, for example, a couple has had a fight before, they are in a rough patch or they are particularly close or and I automatically scan for that, which I thought was normal and I thought everybody did until I talked to a couple of my friends and they were like, no, doesn't register. If like somebody's obviously upset or they say something to me, then it's like, oh, this person's upset. But I don't scan for like relations between people and like read between the lines. No.
Yeah, I've noticed that with the INTPs, even the high play ones. One of my friends is an INTP. He actually went to David Chan's meetup also here in because I live close to the US, so they had a meetup and me and my friend went there. They're like, yeah, he's probably an INTP. But anyways, I also talked to him about this, like what you're just saying, and he said, yeah, I don't want to have problems with people. I just don't know there's a problem, you know, because you can't read the emotion of the room or other people, you know. So he's like, I just prefer people just tell me so I know because I don't know, and it's not that I'm trying to, you know, avoid the problem. I just don't know, you know. So I don't know if you resonate with that.
I feel like that's actually, are you sure he's an INTP and not an ISTP, for example? Because I feel like Dave says that a lot, actually. I hope that's okay. but I say that now, but that he needs to have it spelled out. Like he can't do the reading between the lines. He can see if somebody's like being passive aggressive. It's like, okay, something's wrong, but I'm not comfortable guessing. I cannot guess. So please, you need to spell it out for me. Otherwise, I'm completely lost.
Do you guess though? Because you're lead N, right? So do you actually make a guess of what the problem is?
Yeah, I sometimes do that too much. Instead of just asking the person, hey, look, what is the problem? Again, I use Ti and Ne to look at all the spectrum of possible explanations, think all of them through, and then I'm sure I've come to the right conclusion because I've looked at everything and I've thought through everything, but it might be completely different. So that's something I really had to learn in my later 20s, actually, to just go out and ask the person before I go through all of that and have come to that conclusion, to just cut myself off when I see it starting and just go and actually talk to them and say like, hey, I've noticed this, and this. What's going on?
Gotcha. So I read a book by Jordan Peterson called 12 Rules for Life. I don't know if you've read that book.
I also read that.
Yeah. And then there was a part in the book. I don't know if you remember when you read it. I didn't really read it. I listened to the audiobook because I wanted to hear his voice. I think he has I like the way he talks. It sounds good. Yeah. I'm auditory. He was talking about purpose. So purpose is tied to NF, meaning and purpose is tied to NF, like what is the point? Like, when you get mad at someone because they're taking too long to give you the SI and you're thinking, oh my God, get to the point. What is the point of this? So that's NF, right? Like, what is the point? He said that meaning is something that you cannot, that you don't derive it from internally. It's something that comes to you. So I think he was describing NF play because he's an ENTP, right? So he was describing how he finds purpose and meaning, which is from external, essentially.
Yes.
I guess he doesn't know about the INTJs and those guys, because those guys, they have NF sleep. So they do find meaning from within. So it's not so accurate for everyone. It's accurate for that specific function stack like yours. So basically for you guys, INTP, ENTP, ISFJ, and ESFJ, meaning comes from someone, essentially from play. Like doing enough play with people will help you figure out what your life meaning should be. Would you say that's accurate for you? And would you say that you're using that tool to kind of how to figure out what you should be doing with your life? Like, what is the point of your life? What is the meaning of your life? What mission or passion that you should be engaging in to commit to in your life?
Yes, totally. Yeah, that's actually something I'm talking about with friends a lot these days because, I feel that need to have more purpose in my life and to do something also career-wise that, makes a difference, that does something good in the world in whatever capacity, but I don't know what yet. So definitely, talking to everyone, asking them like, what's your take on that? Consuming stuff like Jordan Peterson to figure out, okay, what are great thinkers thinking about that. So far, I'm still not sure. Maybe you can help me with being like lead NF. That should be maybe easier for you then.
I'm not lead NF.
No?
No, I'm not NEFI. I'm NETE. I'm like you. I'm an NT.
Oh, you're a jumper. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the jumper. So,
I see.
But I mean, if I can use myself as an example, I did figure out the NF already. It took me longer than the NEFIs because I'm not lead NEFI. But for my NF is consume, right? And so that means I find meaning from new experiences. That's why I decided that traveling to every single country in the world is something that I wanted to pursue because it gave me a sense of purpose, gave me a sense of meaning. I feel like the topic of meaning and purpose in a life mission, I feel like in life you have two, okay? And the first one is a self one, and the second one is a tribe one. And I feel like you have to do the self one first, complete it, and then you do the tribe one after. And I kind of look at it as like the IPEJ story. So the IP is the hero. Like if you look at it at a tribe, and what is the function of each member of the tribe is, like the EPs, like we gather resources for the tribe, right? So the hunters, the gatherers, we're all EPs, right? And then the IJs, they're the ones who organize the stuff that we bring back to the tribe, to make sure that nothing bad will happen to the tribe, no chaos, right? So if there's a winter coming up, well, the IJs have to tell the EP, hey, we can't eat all the food you gathered. We have to save some for winter. And then, so as you can see, the EP and the IJ, they play a crucial role in the tribe to keep everyone alive, right? And then, the EJ, they manage essentially the people related stuff. So they govern. They are the one that make sure that everyone is happy, FE, or everything works for everyone, TE, right? So that's like the EJ's role. So you think, okay, what is the IP's role in society then, or a tribe? Well, the IP is the hero. So the hero is someone that pushes the boundary of an individual. So basically, everyone thinks that you can only get to this point in life, but the IP will be like, nope, I can be better than all of you. I can go here, right? But the thing is, once everyone sees that you can go there, then everyone can also go there, because they know that is now the potential. So it's not like the IP is better than everyone, but they're the one that set the bar of how far you can go. But you would never know how far you can go if you don't have an IP, because the IP is the one that shows everyone, hey, guess what? This is how far you can go. So that's why in life, I feel like the life story is you have to be an IP first, regardless of your type. So you have to be selfish in a way and work on yourself, upgrade yourself to a certain point to almost prove a point that this is how far you can go. And once you get to that level, then you can be an EJ. You can teach everyone and share your experience with everyone and help everyone go up to that level as well, or even higher. So
great perspective. I love that. That's really unique take on it. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thanks. But so basically with that is, so basically in life, I feel like for me, my personal, so the IP part is your personal goal, your personal mission. And the personal mission is something you will complete. You have to complete it before your life ends. There's a book I recommend called The Alchemist. I don't know if you ever read that book.
Never, just heard about it.
Yeah, it's called The Alchemist. It's one of the best. It's a fictional book, but don't worry about the fictional side. The wisdom in the book is what you're after. The wisdom is very true. And it talks about like hero's journey essentially, but it's the way he told the story. It was just so full of wisdom, because the closer you are to completing your mission, the more difficult it is, because you're going to get to the point where you feel comfortable enough that you don't need to finish the mission. But if you don't finish it, you're going to have that lingering feeling that something is wrong, that you are, because basically there is something wrong. You're not finished yet. You just got comfortable, right? So like in the story, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Just give you a quick gist of it. The main character got to a point where he already had like technically what you should want in life. Like you have a spouse or partner that you love and you have a good relationship with, and it's like a perfect relationship. You have a good job, making good money, a good home, everything that you need. So why should you leave that? Because you already have everything, right? But no, if when you set out a mission, you have to complete it. You have to be willing to look at that perfect life that you've already created and say, I need to put you on hold, and I need to keep going. And I might not come back if something bad happens to me, but I need to finish this.
It's a big statement.
Sorry, what's that?
That's a big statement of the book, like a big life lesson.
Right, but I completely agree with it, because like if you look at a lot of the IPs, they did sacrifice relationships, they did sacrifice everything to hit the pinnacle of success or whatever it is that they want, right? And then later on, you can come back after you finish it, because there is an end goal. You can finish it, and then you can come back and be the tribe person, right? But you have to finish it first, because no one takes you seriously unless they know you are, unless you play the part of your message. I had a discussion with a friend about this. It's like, what's more important, respect or money, right? Well, the conclusion we came up with is respect, because respect can get you money, but money can't buy you respect. So that's why I feel like the IT journey is super important for everyone, not just like someone that is like an INTP like you. I think everyone should pursue something IP in their life first. Once they complete it, then you can have a tribe mission. And the tribe mission you will never finish in your lifetime, but your goal is to make a dent so that you can move humanity forward, essentially. So the goal of the tribe mission is to move humanity forward. You know, however steps that you can. Either in a small scale or big scale. Sorry?
That's super interesting. Can I ask you a personal question to that? Because I think you mentioned in one of your interviews that your girlfriend is FE.
No, she's not FE. She's a FI. She's she's an INTJ NIFI.
Okay, maybe I misheard that then. Okay, because I was wondering how that would resonate for like a lead FE person to be like, hey, you need to be IP first. And I'd probably be like, but how do I do that? Because my best friend actually is a lead FE. And she's, I think if you talk, or she's still struggling with that on a daily basis of like, how to not feel selfish and how to just embrace that TI and be like, no, this makes sense to me. And in general, it makes sense. I'm competent in this area and I'm going to tell you that. Doesn't matter the vibe, doesn't matter what you guys are going to think of me. And that's like a huge struggle for her. So, but anyways, if your girlfriend's FI, then that's probably not as big a struggle for her.
Well, I mean, I have some examples I can share with you. I have two. So the first one is I know someone in real life. He looks like someone I interviewed actually. Jumper ENTP. So you can say lead FE because it's NEFE, right? So one of his biggest fear before was to be alone because he was DE, so he didn't want to be alone. He was scared of being alone, right? But deep down inside, there was an inkling feeling that he had to do something important, something big. And that thing that was big was he wanted to start a nonprofit organization to start a conversation about people who are living with mental health issues. And he eventually did create one. It's called Ride Don't Hide. And basically, he needed to be the hero first before the nonprofit could take off. And to be a hero, he himself, he had a mental disorder, which is bipolar. And he wanted to ride his bicycle around the diameter of the whole planet Earth. So he started here where I live in Vancouver, Canada, and he rode his bicycle all the way to the tip of Argentina, went to Australia, up Australia, across Southeast Asia, Middle East, Europe, a little bit of Africa, and then across Canada. Yeah, you can look at his website. It's called Ride Don't Hide. But so basically, when he completed it, and then I got him to come to one of my meetup presentation to do a presentation, and he had like that peaceful look in his face, and he said, you know, the biggest fear I had before doing that thing was being alone. And now that I'm, you know, he has a family now and he has kids, he said that the number one thing I missed the most was being alone. It was kind of interesting the way he said that. Because he did have his IP journey. And then afterwards, he became the hero. He started the nonprofit organization, and it now happens every year. And then there's funding that goes towards people with mental health disorder, which is amazing, very beautiful. So there you go. It's like, it's not like you can't, you know, it's so people with FE can still do that. Another example is, what's that guy's name? The Shark Tank guy. I don't know if you watched Shark Tank. What's his name? Give me a second. I'm just going to Google it real quick. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Shark Tank. What's the name of the actor? Oh yeah, Mark Cuban. Have you heard of Mark Cuban? Okay.
No, I don't think we have Shark Tank in Germany.
Okay. Well, anyways, it doesn't matter. He's an ENFJ, and you can argue that he did play the IP role because he became a millionaire just from his efforts of researching how to do technology stuff, and he became a millionaire. And he also did IP stuff. And his dream, his personal selfish dream, was to own a basketball team called, you know, the Dallas Mavericks, I think. And he bought it. I think that's the name of the team that he bought. And he helped lead this team to win, an NBA championship and get the ring. So essentially, so he also had his own IP journey, that he undertook, So now anyone who's an EJ can also can be like, well, I can't do an IP journey. I'm like, well, this guy did, you know, he set out to be a self-made millionaire, and then he also bought a basketball team that he really wanted, and then he took the basketball team and made them win the championship.
Yeah.
So
yep, sounds IP. Yep.
yeah, so it's but he's an EJ, he's an ENFJ, right? So it's like you can't do it. You just need to find someone that's already done it and just not copy, but find what they did, and then just reverse engineer it.
Draw inspiration or let yourself be motivated by that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess for you, it's like, okay, you are an IP, but hey, for you, it's more natural for you to do your own self journey, which is fine. The thing for you, I guess, is don't forget the people later on, and bring them up after you've hit a certain point. So let's talk about that now. So let's talk about your blast. So after you finish your journey, what is something that you would like to blast? What do you think you need to do to help bring humanity forward? In your own way, even if it's a small scale.
Could you ask that question again? I'm not sure I got that.
Sure. So in a small scale or in a big scale, whatever it is that you have seen in your NE or even in your NEFE, what would you say is something that you would be interested in doing in order to move humanity forward in your own way?
I'm not sure I can give you an answer to that at that point, because I think if I knew that, then I would be taking steps to do that.
Yes. But do you have any guess of like an area in life or a topic that you feel almost like, so we're using FE here now. it's a little bit challenging. Where you feel like there's like a draw, like you feel like drawn to it, or like
I think it's two things that I think would make a difference and are important, but they are very different. So one is doing so I follow a really good therapist on Instagram. She's Dr. Alexandra Solomon. She's a marriage and family counselor and a professor, and she has some awesome TED Talks. And basically what she gives you, and a couple books, basically what she does is talk about relational awareness. So like how everything's a dynamic, how to make your interactions better so that, the other person doesn't feel defensive, or, you can both work on your childhood traumas, how to, just those little everyday, I guess, FE struggles. Because I think, at least to me, that was really eye-opening, whatever she was doing. And within like my friends group, we reference her a lot and like link each other and or tag each other in her posts and talk about it. And it has really helped me be better in my relationships. So I feel like whatever she's doing is bringing so much value to the world, that if I knew how she got to that point, or how I could get to that point, and if I could be as good, or maybe not as good as her, that would be a very high standard, but really good, I would probably do that. And on the other hand, so I live in Berlin, and homelessness here is you see a lot of homeless people. And that's just something that's really close to my heart, where I wish I could do something more than just hand them some money or give them some leftover food that I have with me. And I would like to, really dive into that and see like, okay, is that a structural problem? Do we not have enough? Because, usually Germany takes pretty good care of stuff like that. We live in a social state. So what's going on with that? Do people not want it? Are the entry requirements for the emergency housing too high? Do people not know about it? What's going on there? And to raise awareness to within like the population, because there's a lot of prejudice against homeless people, that they are all bums and drug addicts and like basically brought it onto themselves, and if you give them money they're just going to spend it all on drugs, and yeah, it's just not true. So yeah, I guess those two areas would be, or it is something that I'm looking at right now.
There you go. See, you know, you know, I think everyone knows like the social cost that they are drawn to. You know, I think that's what I'm finding now is like everyone at deep down inside, they know it. They know it. They just can't specify it, you know. I feel like in life you cannot know what that specific thing that you need to dive into, because you mentioned two different topics, right? That you are drawn to. But you're not really sure which part of that you want to contribute, right? Yeah. But you know, this is like the two areas, right? Because I feel like I'm the same as you. I have two areas also that I feel like I want to be a part of, but I'm also not sure which of the two is the one I want to deep dive. I mean, you can do both. I mean, there's no reason why you can't do both, right?
What's that for you, those two areas?
Okay, the first one is when I was growing up, I had no clue what I wanted to do in my life, and I felt so lost, and it felt horrible. Like I was looking at other people, and I was like, how come everyone seems to know what they want to do with their life, and I don't know what to do with my life? I feel like, yeah, I just felt so lost. Felt horrible, you know. And once I found out about, like, you know, going on my journey to go to every single country in the world, and that's gonna be the, you know, it's not the finish line, but it's I'm moving towards something. Then it seems like everything in my life fell into place, because I was now moving towards something, and I was working towards something. So that was the first one, is helping people find out what their identity is, and then after they find their identity, help them find what they need to do with their life that resonates with them, right? That's why I have ENFP male, because that's, you know, personality, right? The second one is for my travels. Like when I traveled around the world, one of the things that really made me angry was I went to 3 countries specifically. So one was Venezuela, one was Belarus, and the other one was Vietnam. So I was in those 3 different countries, and I spoke to 3 different people that have this like very similar stories. The one in Vietnam, he lives in a dictatorship country, and because of that, he had no freedom to pursue what he wanted to pursue. So this is a different story from the other one, where people don't know what they want. These people knew what they want, but they can't do anything about it. Which for me is it's horrible. That is like the worst thing possible. It's like you can't pursue what you want, especially what they want to pursue is harmless to everyone else. It's something that's just their passion, right? So one guy, he loves traveling, and he also wants to travel the world, but it's very limited because of his status as a Vietnamese citizen. I was in Venezuela. There was a guy there who, he was like at one point going to be an Olympic level gymnast, and but because Venezuela is again in a dictatorship country, there was no funding or opportunity for him to pursue that, and now he has to carry backpacks of tourists up a mountain in order to make a little bit of money, and he's breaking his leg doing it, which again takes him further away from his dream of being a gymnast, you know, because your body has to be in tip-top shape, right? So I'm like, you know, that really hurts me to hear his story, right? Because he shared this story to me. And the last guy was in Belarus, and the guy in Belarus, again, Belarus is another dictatorship country, and he was telling me that, you know, he has to like do like psychiatric treatment to everyone. He was a psychiatrist, and everyone only gets like 10 minutes. I'm like, how do you fix people's mental health with 10 minutes? And he tells me, he's like, oh, well, I just give them meds because that's all I can do. I mean, it's like, he'd like to help more, but he can't really do anything. And he said he hates his life too, because, you know, he can't pursue his dream, you know, because in Belarus, you're kind of locked in again, in a dictatorship kind of country. And so he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to have a job where he was helping others with their mental health and give them their proper time to fix their mental health, not 10 minutes per person, he's working 16 hours a day or something ridiculous. And I'm like, it's like my heart was breaking when I was hearing all these people's story, right? And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So and on one side, we have people that who know what they want, but they can't do it. And then the other side, people who can do it, but they don't know what they want. So these are the 2 groups I wanted to help the most. And I feel like my tribe mission, after I finished my self mission, IP mission is to go do something that helps those two sides. And the way I was thinking about it is I was going to do ENFP mail to help people who don't know what they want and build a business out of that. But part of the proceeds of my revenue will go towards helping those people who live in those dictatorship country. So that's my personal mission that I've found out. But I would have never found that out if I never traveled around the world, if I never pursued my IP mission. So I feel like the IP mission will help you find your tribe mission. That's why you have to do the IP mission first. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, sounds like a great concept to combine those two in that way. Like, good for you.
Sure, thanks. But yeah, so anyways, so that's just my opinion on that. So it sounds like for you, you were talking about like when you see homeless people, you give them leftovers or and whatnot that you have. So I feel like that's kind of like SF blast, like you're like sharing people. It's not going to change their life in the long term, but for that moment, give them a little bit of happiness. So you have double feminine SF blast. So your SF blast is going to be very, it's going to be very soft, very gentle. So I guess you would come across as very kind also if you use it, because it's like, oh, so would you like a little bit of food? It's like very nice, right? you know, so how do you feel when you do use that double feminine SF blast? Because it's in the bottom, but there are times everyone has at some point will use their fourth function, either by accident or on a one-off. So how do you personally use that SF blast?
I feel like that is actually a good example of like just kind of taking care of people in that way, and like the physical is like, oh, let me make sure you have, oh, your water glass is empty, I have already refilled that for you. Do you need something to eat? Do you need something else to eat? Are you cold, hot? Can I get you something? Stuffed blanket? Do you need, I don't know, do you need a hug? Do you need emotional support? Like, let me give you the tool, whatever it is, that is gonna make your life easier in that moment.
And do you see yourself doing that on a regular basis?
I think so. At least I always try to do it. And then of course, when I have bad days myself and I'm grumpy or work was really annoying, then I have to push a bit, because my selfish impulse to just, walk out of the room without offering somebody else some of my food or asking them about their day would be the first impulse. But then, you kind of have to push that down a bit, be like, no, don't be selfish right now. Just do the thing. And then usually I do. So works out okay, I guess.
Well, it's cool that you're aware of what SF blast is, because you described it perfectly. So that's great. Let's talk about your ST sleep. So ST means like how you do something. David Chan referred to as block banging, but it could also be like how you personally do things. One thing that I received from also other people that I've interviewed that has the same function stack as you, they said that another way to describe ST sleep is having a body that works. Okay. So essentially taking care of your body so that everything's working fine. I kind of look at it, TI people, sorry,
you go on. I would have turned that question around on you and be like, actually, I'm not really sure what my SITI sleep is like, because I haven't figured that out, but I do actually take very good care of my body, and I can tell you all about nutrition and exercise and meditation and all of the benefits. So go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah. So that guy that gave me the example, he does all that stuff that you mentioned. He works out, he eats healthy and stuff. So can you talk about your own personal like routine to take care of your body to make sure that you're healthy and stuff?
Always a bit difficult for me to describe it, because I've been doing it for such a long time now, and it doesn't really require any self-discipline or anything. Other people are often like, oh my God, you eat so healthy, like how do you do it? I could never have the discipline. For me, it's not a struggle, it's just something that I guess maybe is so processed that it goes on autopilot basically. So I don't know. I just try to.
What do you eat? What do you eat on a regular basis? Just, give us some facts here.
I actually rotate the foods around quite a bit because I get bored really easily with always eating the same thing. But just try to make sure that I get as many healthy things in every meal, that everything has a balance of like proteins, carbs, fats, and as many macronutrients as I can put in there. I've been eating a vegan diet for like about a year and 9 months now. So you have to be extra careful to like not go into any deficiencies. So I use some supplements to counteract that. And then try and just move my body regularly, do yoga to stretch, to calm my mind, get enough sleep, drink enough water. Don't overdo it with the booze and the caffeine. I mean, just I don't know what everyone knows, I guess. Yeah.
What made you decide to go vegan as opposed to, let's say, vegetarian?
So I was vegetarian before and just thought, just pretty much kind of ruled being vegan out from the start, because I was, oh my God, cheese, I could never. And then realized I hadn't actually given it a go. I hadn't ever tried being vegan. It was just my imagination. I was like, oh my God, it must be so hard. I must never be able to do it. So I'm not even going to try. So I was like, you know what, just do it had it as a New Year's resolution actually. And was like, you know what, just give it a try for a couple of weeks, see how that works out for you. If it's horrible, go back to being vegetarian, but maybe it works. And actually you kind of get used to it, and then it's not so difficult anymore.
Gotcha. When you're eating all those food, you don't feel like a craving to eat the other food that you were missing out when you were vegetarian? Like there's no cravings? You're like, no, I'm good, I just eat it and it's fine.
There definitely are, but for me, I do it for moral reasons, which I think is then easier to stick to it if you really think of, basically, I don't want any animal to suffer just so I can enjoy my food a little bit more. And if that is your starting point, as opposed to it being trendy or it supposedly being healthier, or you want to lose weight with it, I think those are like harder factors, and you're going to be a lot more tempted. Whereas if, I look at eggs and I envision, also being visual helps. I picture the chickens being in the factories and all that. The craving or the temptation automatically goes away immediately, because you kind of, you see the impact of your actions. That makes sense.
So that's where your DE is at, like it's towards animals. That's no, it's great, and I feel like I never thought of it that way. As a good way to go vegan or vegetarian is to think about the animals. It's like every time you look at the plate, it's not like the yummy food that you're seeing. It's the animal that was slaughtered to become that. Or
yeah. But I also know. I mean, I've been eating meat for a long time, and I remember how like detached you are from it, and you just see that delicious meat on your plate, or it's convenient. There are a lot more meat options, especially if you're traveling. You want to sample all those delicious local foods, and you don't want to think about whether, is there meat in it? Is that an animal that suffered for it? And so I get it.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about your sexual modality, since you already brought it up. So we covered ST sleep. Looks like you have a pretty good routine for your ST sleep, for your health. Your sexual modalities, that one is interesting because you just talked about being visual, how you visualize all that stuff. So you kind of covered that already. I want to talk about being a tester, because you said to me that, I travel, therefore I must want to try all this food, but I actually don't. Okay, when I travel, I don't want to try. I don't care to try different food.
Really?
Because I'm not a tester. I don't care. I don't care to experiment.
So I guess as an audio, what would you then sample audio stuff? Would you like to listen to the local music, or what's that like for you
Well,
then?
I mean, I'm high place. I like to talk to people in the different cultures. So I like the play part of it, which is talking to different people. But yes, I did notice that when I traveled and I did hear the local music, I was drawn to it. And I was like, wow, oh, I want to see what their music here is like. And then I like to compare to with like different countries. So for example, I went to Vietnam. I was like, oh my God, these people have horrible music. No offense to Vietnamese people, you know. But like when I went to when I was in Ecuador and I was listening to the locals play their flute and their like local instrument, as well as Peru, I was like, man, I really love their music. It's great. I love their music here. So yes, so I guess I was doing that audio stuff that you were describing. But yeah, talk about being a tester, experimenting with different stuff. I also think like from my recent interviews, I also noticed that tester people have a very good sense of smell and they like a variety of smell also, and food and taste of food is also correlated with smell. um like I hate the scent of candles, for example, like different scent of candles, like I hate that stuff, but I noticed tester people, they love it. uh so talk about that, talk about the sense of smell, taste, experimenting with different stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, actually, exactly what you described. Yeah, a very acute sense of smell, which can be good or bad because there are a lot of bad scents out there. And if somebody puts on too much perfume or something, it's like, ugh, oh my God. But yeah, basically, I use that. I think I would say, yeah, I use visual and tester to orient myself in the world. So it can sometimes be a bit weird or quirky. So, for example, I like to sniff plates to see if they are clean, which is like, so I've traveled quite a bit too, and I've always stayed in hostels. So I don't know if you've ever stayed in a hostel,
A lot.
but yeah, so hostel kitchens can be the grossest place in the world.
Yes.
Um, so I think that's where it started, to just be like, okay, I need to make sure somebody has washed this properly. So I sniff the glasses, or like I sniff the plates, and I still do that sometimes. And my friends will look at me like, did she actually just smell that plate? Or did I imagine that? Because that would be really very weird. Nope, nope, they did not imagine it.
Yeah. That's so funny. um I have a few more questions for you, Victoria, and then we'll wrap up the interview, okay?
Sure.
Let's quickly talk about your SI, feminine SI. What's happening there, or what's not happening there?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting one because I feel like that's really developed a lot more. I could really see demon SI a lot more when I was younger, whereas now I feel like it's very balanced with my NE, and I see the SI a lot and I value it a lot too. So I really like a clean environment. I don't like when stuff is messy. I like the knives aligned according to size on my magnetic little knife board. I like cleaning, all of that, taking neat notes. Yeah, but when I was younger, I would leave stuff all over the place. I would always lose things. I could not for the life of me remember where I put it. I must have lost my house key 25 times. So that really, thankfully, really developed. But it still shows in like the feminine sensory. Dave will always make fun of me because I I always lose my earplugs that I sleep with because I just put them in random places. He says sometimes I put them on my chest when I sleep. So I take them out, I put them on my chest, and then I fall asleep again. And then I wonder, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh, where are my earplugs? And of course, they are somewhere in the bed or in the room because I put them on my fucking chest.
Yeah, that's funny.
Instead of like a particular place. And yeah, as I mentioned before, just remembering facts out of something I've learned, like little, especially numbers. I don't know how people remember it. No idea. Dates, if somebody tells me when they go on holiday, I'm like, please write it down for me, because otherwise I'm gonna ask you 5 times and the 6th time I'm still not gonna know it. So please just type it out for me. Yeah.
Nice. That's so interesting, especially the weird stuff that you do with the earplug in the chest. Uh, um, but would you say that double observing is something that you can do pretty well? Then you can gather and organize, and it's like automatic nowadays for you.
I would say so. I think I get even more feedback from other people that I know that well, and then that when I'm, telling them, for example, about something that I've learned, usually there'll be a good balance of like concepts and facts. And yeah, also in my surroundings and in my life in general, it's not so much just the NE pushing. It's like new, let's go new. But it's a bit more like, okay, let's also tone it down a little bit and be like, okay, organize a little, structure a little, have a look at money. Does that actually work out? So yeah, thankfully that has really balanced itself out. Do you
Gotcha.
feel like for you too that kind of, yeah, with demon SI that it has balanced itself out more? Or I guess for you
It's
maybe
better
it's
than.
the middle decider functions.
No, I'm very balanced with self and tribe, like super balanced. More so on the tribe than self, but it's gotten better over the years. Definitely a lot better, especially when I took a year off to go backpacking because I was alone by myself. So I learned to be self-sufficient. So when I came back, it's super balanced. The double
Such a
observant
great
thing. Sorry.
backpacking is such a great, it gives you such a great or so many great life lessons, right?
Yes.
It almost makes me, not sure if you feel the same way, but whenever you've traveled a lot, you don't want to be that cliche person that comes back and is like, oh my God, this has changed my life. But it really does change your
It
life.
does.
So it's,
Yeah, it does change, but it doesn't happen right away. It's like a build up because you have to, I don't know, process what happened, right? When you backpack and then you compare it to your current life, you're like, oh, a lot of these problems are not real problems, they're fake problems, right? So um
yeah, it gives you a whole new perspective on your own culture as well, like things you've never noticed before. At least that was what it was like for me. It's like I never paid attention. My gaze basically skipped over that because I'd grown up with it. It was so
yeah.
natural, and yeah, of course. And then you go somewhere else and it's just not there, and you're like, oh, huh.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can relate to that because when I traveled, I noticed that the race was a big thing. Like people call me China when I was like in certain countries. No one like tried to ask
Oh
me what my
wow.
name is. They just call me China, right? But like when I'm in Canada, every single race is here. So for me, it's not weird. Like my friends are multicultural, right? Like I have friends from Iran, from Russia, from Vietnam, from Hong
Yeah.
Kong. So it's like no, it's not weird to hang out with people of different races. It's like I don't even notice it. I'll make a racist joke here and there just because I think it's funny, but it's not because it's like not because I'm trying to like offend someone, because I just think it's not a big deal, you know,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I did notice that. Like that was the biggest one I noticed when I came back and when I was traveling.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
last question for you, Victoria, and then we'll wrap up the interview because I have another one booked right after this. Um, last one is talk about fear of judgment as an IP.
Oh. uh yeah, that's a huge one, definitely. I don't even know what to say to that. I can't imagine that anybody doesn't have that fear of judgment. And then when I see people as really admirable, if they seem to be like, oh, you know what, I'll just do my own thing and try. Don't care what they say. I'll just be me and do me, and yeah, they can judge me all they want. That's very impressive. But
So
yeah.
whose judgment are you scared of as an IP? Is it your own judgment of yourself or other people's judgment of you?
Well, as an IP, the first instance will always, or the first person I'm answering to will always be myself, and my own standards will be pretty high for myself. But at the same time, so I will judge me, definitely. I will judge myself for sure. But at the same time, everyone really, yeah. I guess the closer people get to me, the less I'm afraid of the judgment, because they've proven they've proven to love me with all of my quirks and my weirdness and everything that could be judged. But yeah, if it's new people that I'm meeting, or colleagues, my parents, yeah, that's definitely always a fear.
So if someone can love you after they see you smelling a plate, then they're a true friend.
Pretty much.
Gotcha. All right, Victoria, this has been a very fun interview. I really enjoyed it talking to you and getting to know you better, more about your type as well.
For me as well. Thank you so much for a great first interview experience.
For sure. Well, I'm glad that you had a good experience and hopefully we can see you around in the community more. All right, so take care and enjoy the rest of your evening in Germany.
Yeah, you as well, Kendrick. Thanks so much.
All right, see you.
Bye.